Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about the Fantasy Football Week 1 quarterback start and sit rankings. So what does that mean, Andrew? We're basically going to be going over every single matchup in Week 1, all 16 games, and I'm going to be talking about each quarterback's matchups and why I think you should either start them on your lineup this coming week or sit them in this coming week. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before we do, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. For those of you who have, I mean, we've seen an influx of subscribers this past weekend like no other. I think it's because of the craze of the fantasy season. I'm bringing out content on the daily. So if you would, please stay updated. Click the subscribe button so that I can keep bringing you content in your mailbox on a consistent basis and so that we can build a community around my channel here. So if you could, I really appreciate it for those who have. And if you haven't, please go ahead. Click that subscribe button. Anyway, so let's get right into it. Hey everybody, how's it going? Okay, so as I said, we're going to break it down from every matchup, right? I don't have all day, and I don't want to spend 30 minutes talking about each quarterback, but we're just going to break it down as quickly as we can, and we're going to talk about each quarterback and each matchup, right? So the Thursday night game to start off the season is the Atlanta Falcons versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, as you can see, it's Nick Foles on the screen. It's no longer Carson Wentz because Carson Wentz has been officially, ruled out for Week 1. He has not been cleared for contact yet, which is quite surprising. But then again, coming off an ACL injury, they'd like to protect their franchise quarterback and just throw Nick Foles out there for a couple games in the beginning of the season. So this is how I'm basically determining it. If they've got a green... Wait, hold up. Well, let's do it this way, yeah. If they've got a green up arrow, that means I would suggest you start them this week. If they've got the down... I can't do this. The down arrow... I would suggest you go ahead and sit him on your bench, and maybe we'll see what happens next week. You know what I mean? So anyway, why do I think you should start Matt Ryan this coming week? Well, Matt Ryan coming into second season with Steve Sarkisian as the offensive coordinator. I think the Falcons have a pretty distinct advantage coming into Week 1. The last time the Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles played was in the playoffs, in which the Eagles won 15-10. It was a pretty low-scoring game, but then again, it was just because the offense of the Falcons was pretty inept last season. Coming off that Super Bowl hangover, Julio didn't look great. I mean, he had all those receiving yards, but touchdown-wise, he was kind of a dud. Devontae Freeman was injured here and there, and the offense just wasn't clicking, right? This coming season, I think because of the fact that the Eagles don't have Carson Wentz, they won't have Alshon Jeffrey, Jay's a little beat up. The Eagles are going to have a tough time moving the ball offensively, in my opinion. I would not sleep on the Atlanta Falcons defense with Dan Quinn as their head coach, the former Seahawks defensive coordinator when it was what's the nickname they used to call for the secondary? Oh man, I don't even remember. Just disregard that. Whatever. I'm sure if you know it, just say it out loud. It's fine. So anyway, Nick Foles, going into the week without Alshon Jeffrey is going to hurt him a lot. He didn't look great in preseason. I don't see Nick Foles coming out and just throwing dimes and lighting up the Atlanta Falcons defense. I think the Falcons have something to prove in Week 1. I would go ahead and sit Foles if you have the option. Like, let's say, for example, you have Carson Wentz and Foles is your option, and he's your only option. You have to go for it. Go for it. But other than that, I think Matt Ryan is the better start in this game. Real quick, so let's say, for example, I say later on in this video, I give a thumbs up to Matt Ryan and I give a thumbs up to, let's say, Andrew Luck, okay? In the comment section, if you have both of them and you're still wondering, Andrew, who should I start? Go ahead, comment below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can in order to give you the best information possible. And I'll kind of give you an idea of why I would pick one over the other. So if I don't address something specifically, go ahead into the bottom in the comment section and just write me and I'll get back to you for sure. All right, so next. All right, so the second game, okay, so one of the morning games on Sunday, right? We have the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Indianapolis Colts, right? So here's the thing about the Colts this coming week. The Colts defense is absolutely terrible. I mean, we all know that. That's why they were the third overall pick. That's why they barely won any games. Yes, Andrew Luck wasn't there last season, but I think because of the fact that the Colts are just so terrible on defense, Andy Dalton is getting a plus this week. He is a start for this week with A.J. Green, John Ross, Tyler Eifert being healthy this coming week, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be able to produce. Now, that doesn't mean that Andrew Luck's going to do any worse. I think this game is personally going to be a shootout. I think, yes, the Bengals have a considerably better defense, but I think Andrew Luck is a good enough of a quarterback to make this thing interesting. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting games going into week one. I think it's going to be a shootout. So I would start both of these quarterbacks week one. Okay, so the next game, oh man, the Ravens versus the Bills. So it was announced a couple days back, Nathan Peterman is going to be the starting quarterback for the Bills. If you have to start him, then you must play in one of the deepest 2-quarterback leagues I've ever seen. You should never have to start Nathan Peterman this year, ever. I don't care what the scenario or situation is. That offensive line there in Buffalo is terrible. Their receivers aren't, particularly great. Their best receiver, is Kelvin Benjamin, and they have Zay Jones. That's not great. LaShawn McCoy is injured with a quad injury right now. He's probably going to play in week one, but I don't think anything surrounding Nathan Peterman looks particularly good this week, so I would definitely not start him. Joe Flacco, on the other hand, the only reason I would say sit Joe Flacco this week, besides the fact that he's usually a bum, I think he's going to have a good year this year. Like overall, he's going to improve from last year because you really can't get as bad as he was last season. Joe Flacco this week, that Bills secondary, that Bills defense, I think the defense is good, and I think the Baltimore Ravens want to come out and they want to run the ball all over this Bills defense because I think the Bills defense will give a couple. So, I'll address that with the Alex Collins a little bit later today when I do that video, but I 100% believe that you should probably be sitting Joe Flacco. Okay. Now, another thing I want to address. If you play in a 2QB league or a Superflex league like I do, and I said, sit him, go to the comment section, type to me, Andrew, I'm in a 2-quarterback or Superflex league. I have 2 of the guys that you said to sit as my second quarterback position. What do you think? And I'll go ahead and answer you, okay? Because this is usually going to be for like 1-quarterback leagues that I would suggest who to start. In a 2-quarterback league, it's definitely going to be different. There'd probably be a lot more names that I would suggest for you to start. So if you want, go to the comment section and go ahead and do that. So the next game, okay, so Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm not going to tell you to start Ryan Fitzpatrick. Drew Brees, if you have Drew Brees on your roster, he's pretty much a start every week. I would never, leave Drew Brees on the bench. The way I see it, especially with these start and sits, you want to play your studs, right? You want to play the guys that you went out and you drafted him highly and you gave a lot of capital. If you went and picked up Drew Brees in the 9th round, you want to go ahead and start him instead of playing a guy like Andy Dalton that you took in the 12th, right? Yes, I may have said start both, but I would go ahead and I'd start the guy that's more reliable and that's a stud on a consistent basis, right? So definitely Drew Brees this coming week without Mark Ingram. I think they might have to throw the ball a little bit more. So and that Tampa Bay defense is not great. The pass rush has been improved with Vita Vea and Jason Pierre-Paul this coming offseason. Gerald McCoy still there. They have a great pass rush, but the Saints have a really good offensive line. I think this game is definitely going to go to the way of Drew Brees rather than Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if you have an option, go ahead and start Drew Brees this week. Okay, so the next game, right? Obviously, it's without a doubt you start both these guys. If you went and drafted Tom Brady, he's probably the best quarterback on your team. You're going to start him every week except for the bye week. And same thing with Deshaun Watson. I don't think you can ever step away from these guys and go ahead and sit them. I think they're 100% plays no matter the matchup, especially because of how much hype surrounds Deshaun Watson. You have to roll with it. And I think there's really no argument against not starting these guys. Deshaun Watson will probably light up this defense if he's back into full form, and I think Tom Brady's going to work that Texans defense. This is another game that I think could be an extremely high-scoring game in a shootout. So I'd go ahead and start both of these guys. Okay, so this was a little tricky, right? So we have the Minnesota Vikings versus the San Francisco 49ers this coming week, right? And I thought to myself for a while, I was like, do I really want to suggest that people start Jimmy Garoppolo? And I came to the conclusion that I wanted to say no. Jimmy Garoppolo playing against this extremely good Vikings defense, I don't really put much trust into him. And the reason why, the running back situation isn't quite settled as of right now. A couple ideas are going around that Breida is going to be the guy taking first-team snaps and being the starting running back as of right now. That's a little bit of a confusing mess. I think that, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a amazing fantasy quarterback. He wins games. Yes, he's yet to lose a game while he started, right, in the NFL. But I don't think he's, an amazing quarterback who's going to light up the Minnesota defense with 3 touchdowns, right? On the other hand, Kirk Cousins, you've heard it before. If you've watched my top 10 quarterbacks for the season, Kirk Cousins is my number 5 quarterback this year. I think he's going to set the world on fire. I think this team is going to be extremely talented with Rudolph, Diggs, Thielen, and Dalvin Cook coming back. They're going to be extremely potent offensively, and they're going to score a lot of points. So I would 100% start Kirk Cousins this coming week. Okay, so the next matchup, right? We got the Dolphins versus the Titans. Ryan Tannehill in a 2 QB league is not terrible. Okay, just putting it out there. If you play in a 2 QB league, go ahead and in the comment section and go ahead and ask me, would you rather start Tannehill or blah in a 2 QB league? I'll give you the answer. But as of right now, in a 12 or 10 team league, I would not start Ryan Tannehill. On the other hand, I do like Marcus Mariota versus the Dolphins defense this coming week. It is in Tennessee. The game is in Tennessee, so it gives Marcus Mariota a little bit of an advantage. He doesn't have to go and sit into that Florida heat. So I like Mariota this coming week. I think it'll probably be a good matchup for him, and I would go ahead and say start him for this coming week. Okay, look at this matchup, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars versus the look at Eli's face, the Giants. I'd say, don't start either of them. In a 12-team league, of these two, I'd probably start Bortles more often than Eli because I don't trust Eli against A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey in that incredible defense. So I would go ahead and say don't ever start Eli. Don't touch him. Blake Bortles, on the other hand, he could come out and surprise some people, but there are better options for week 1. So I would say also sit Blake Bortles. Okay, so like this kind of an option, right? We got Ben Roethlisberger and we have Tyrod Taylor. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb. And, obviously people are like, you have to start Ben Roethlisberger. Sure, you do. But I want to say that Tyrod Taylor should be started this week. And the reasons why, a lot of people sleep on Tyrod Taylor fantasy-wise, right? 2 years back in 2016, Tyrod Taylor was a top 10 fantasy quarterback in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. We've yet to see it in preseason, but this man uses his legs, right? And he gets a lot of fantasy value out of that, just like Russell Wilson and Cam Newton does, right? I think, especially first game of the year, the Steelers come out a little bit slow. They're probably not going to have Le'Veon Bell week 1. We'll see. Only time will tell, right? It's early. We're still on Tuesday. But we're just going to have to wait and see. Especially, if he shows up tomorrow, you think he'll play the whole game? I don't know. So I think the Steelers offense is going to be a little bit shaky to start the game. And it'll kind of give the Browns a little bit of a give or take an advantage to start with a good tempo, come out. And I like Tyrod Taylor this year. Overall, Tyrod Taylor, it only takes them to lose, 4 games in a row and he's gone, right? But if they can consistently compete and stay competitive and win some games, I think I like Tyrod Taylor more than a lot of people do this coming season. Okay? So the next game, Patrick Mahomes versus the Phillip Rivers, my favorite Phillip Rivers. I'm always going to start Phillip Rivers. It doesn't really matter. Last season they started 0-4 to begin the year. They ended 9-7, which means their last 12 games they were 9-3. The way I see it, I think the Chargers are set for a pretty good season. They just signed Antonio Gates back, so there's another offensive weapon for Phillip Rivers to target throughout the offense. I think the running game is strong. I think the offensive line has been rebuilt. They brought in Pouncey, their left guard that they drafted last season's back, and they're ready, I'm telling you, to make a playoff run. On the other hand, Patrick Mahomes, do not sleep on this guy. The Chargers secondary is a little bit banged up after Casey Hayward? I think it was Casey Hayward, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Casey Hayward out for the season, if I'm not mistaken. So Patrick Mahomes, just give him an opportunity to throw an 80-yard bomb, and he'll do it to Tyreek Hill. I'm telling you. And you know what the thing is? Phillip Rivers sometimes doesn't play well against the Chiefs. When I say sometimes, I mean last season against the Chiefs, he threw 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions in 2 games, right? So you might be thinking, Andrew, shouldn't we be sitting Phillip Rivers? No, relax, okay? Phillip Rivers in opening games is an absolute monster. He'll come out, he'll light it up, and he'll be clean, right? I think the same for Patrick Mahomes this year. He'll be a good quarterback. He'll be serviceable into good matchups, and I think this is a good matchup starting week 1. Okay, so the next game. I mean, you have to start Cam. Against the Dallas defense, you have to start Cam Newton. It's without a doubt. Now, Dak Prescott, on the other hand, we don't know what kind of Dak Prescott we're going to see this year. Usually he plays better with Ezekiel Elliott, which he's going to have under center. Behind him, when he's under center. Zach Martin's going to be healthy and going to be able to play this week. It's at Carolina. I think if Dak Prescott comes out and he proves to everyone that I'm not just a quarterback that relies on a Dez Bryant, I can feed it to Allen Hurns, Michael Gallup, Terrence Williams, Tavon Austin, Cole Beasley. I can spread the ball. Blake Jarwin. I can feed the ball to Ezekiel Elliott. If he can come out and prove that he's capable of doing so, then in the later weeks, I might be considering him to start. But this coming week against the Carolina defense, I'm going to go ahead and say sit Dak Prescott's. There are better options than him. Okay, next. I'm going to go ahead and say, this was also another tough one. In a 2 QB league, I would consider starting Sam Bradford. Just going to put that out there. But for sure, I would start Alex Smith into this matchup. And if you're playing a 12-team league, just leave Bradford alone. Don't touch him. But if you're in a 2 QB league, go ahead and ask in the comments again, and I'll try to get back to you on that. But otherwise, I like Alex Smith this coming week, especially with AP under or behind him, and Chris Thompson being healthy, and Jordan Reed somewhat being. I mean, how does Jordan Reed manage to get hurt every year? I don't understand this. This kid is just made of glass. Anyway, so this is a little bit of a controversial one, right? I'm going to go ahead and say don't start either of these quarterbacks. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not going to start Case Keenum either. And then you look and you see, why isn't Andrew suggesting we start Russell Wilson? Well, here's the thing. Perspectively, okay? Russell Wilson starts the year off extremely, extremely slow. Now, I have statistics to back that up. In the last 3 seasons, okay, in 2015, 2016, and 2017, Russell Wilson in 3 opening games has only thrown 2 touchdown passes, right? He followed that also with 2 interceptions. So in 3 opening games, and especially last season, he didn't throw a single touchdown, in the opening game against Green Bay, I think. Russell Wilson, they start off slow. In 2016, they played against the Dolphins, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's not a great week 1. He starts off slow usually. If you have a better option, go for it. If one of the guys I mentioned is on your team. Otherwise, if you have to play Russell Wilson, you play him. Go for it. But I do not like Russell Wilson in week 1. Coming out the gates a little bit slow, having to run away from Von Miller the entire game, it's going to be a little rough, okay? And it's at Denver. Let's not sleep on that, guys. It's at Denver. It's going to be tough. So the next game, the Sunday night game for this coming week, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers versus Mitchell Trubisky and the Chicago Bears. I mean, are we surprised that I'm going to tell you to start Aaron Rodgers? Not really. Mitchell Trubisky, on the other hand, I think he could have a good game. I just, we haven't even seen any of this Matt Nagy offense. They had not played Mitchell Trubisky once this preseason. They had not played any of these starters as of late, recently in the preseason for the Bears. And, we're not sure they could have came out in a vanilla defense and a vanilla offense and just put out starters for 1 series. And I probably would say start Mitchell Trubisky. But because they didn't, I'm a little worried. There could be a chance that he comes out and looks like the rookie like he was last season, or he can come out and light it up. In 2 QB leagues, I'd consider starting Trubisky this coming week because I don't really, think that Packers defense is too good. Okay, to move on, obviously, I'm going to tell you to sit Sam Darnold. Rookie coming into his first game of the season at Detroit. If the Detroit defense is sitting on your waiver wire, go and pick that up. I think it'll be a great pickup this week. I don't know if Darius Slay is going to be, licking his fingers before the game, but I'm telling you, Darius Slay will definitely get 1 pick off this kid. Matthew Stafford, he's a for sure start. It's not even close. He'll be a weekly start consistently. I don't see a matchup in which he's going to be sat down, especially when it's at home for Matthew Stafford. He plays really well there. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, unless you play in a 2 QB league, comment section again. Let's move on. And the last matchup for week 1, okay? To close it all off, we have the Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams on the last Monday night game. I think the Jets and the Lions are also a Monday night game, but it's a little bit earlier in the afternoon, starting at like 5 Pacific. So, obviously, I'm telling you to start Jared Goff. I mean, the Raiders just let their best defender walk out the door for a couple first-round picks that are really just, You're not going to get Khalil Mack talent out of there. Derek Carr, I don't know. I don't really trust Derek Carr going into the season. I never really have. These last couple of years, he's been extremely inconsistent. There is a chance that he could play decently, but if you have the option, don't start Derek Carr. I would 100% start Jared Goff against this really just – it's a really bad defense. Let's be real. The Raiders' defense has never been extremely good. They haven't been good in a while. So I'd go ahead and say start Jared Goff without a doubt in my mind. So that's basically it, everybody. What do you think? Is there anybody that I talked about that I told you to start or sit that you would think opposite of? Please go down to the comment section. If you haven't already, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more content on the daily. I'm going to be bringing out the running back start and sits for later, I think later on today. And then I'm going to be going over wide receivers and tight ends tomorrow. So until then, thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate all the support. And until next time, I'll see you guys.